Now on to the 4th episode of Jazz Ed with shapes. Hey everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood sax man Alex here. Shapes are great ways that you can move around through the changes. But how do you create these shapes? I'm not talking about shapes like
we're not talking about this or this, we're talking about this!
I'm talking about musical shapes, shapes that we use for improvisations, shapes that Coltrane uses, for example. And shapes can mean different things. They can mean numerical shapes, meaning 1, 2, 3, 5, like as a pattern, or it can mean a manipulation of a certain scale, for example, like a pentatonic, and how you can shift around certain notes to make it not sound like a scale. So adding on top every topic that we've talked on before, I want to create a shape with you so that you can then practice it on tunes. So the first thing we have to consider is how many notes do you want in your shape? I would suggest if you want to make a shape, make it no more than 5 or 6 notes. One, because if you have odd meter, it can be very difficult to play over. And the other is because you want to memorize these shapes. And if you play a 16-note shape, it can be very difficult to memorize, as you can see. So limit yourself to 5 to 6 at the very most. I'm going to do a 4-note shape because it's very easy to memorize and I think it'll be good for our example. Now that we know the number of notes, we can start applying some theory to it. Now, if we want to create a shape, we have to understand what are the characteristic notes that we have to put in this shape to make sure that we understand the changes. The 3, the 7, and the 1 are all very characteristic notes in a chord that you need to emphasize. You don't have to play all 3 of them, but at least one of them would be great so that you understand where you are in the changes. Now that you have that, we move on to how you connect these phrases so that they don't sound so robotic. And we use enclosures for that, so if you haven't checked that video, check it out. Having an enclosure on top of your 4-note phrase that we're gonna do is going to help to transition from the phrase that you want to the next phrase that you want without it sounding so choppy. You can have a 2-note, 3-note, 4-note enclosure as long as you know where the target note is from where you started. Pretty easy enough. Now the third thing is to apply a certain chord scale, meaning the butter notes. If you want your shape to sound super buttery, find a chord scale on the chord that you're on. Apply some really nice notes like a 13 or a flat 13 or a sharp 11 or a 9 depending on what the chord is. Having that in your shape will make it sound really bright or really dark. So the sky's the limit for this. You can do whatever you want. 4 notes, 5 notes, 6 notes. You can literally have all the butter notes and then maybe one characteristic note in there with an enclosure and then bloop. You got yourself a killing shape. Write everything down so you don't forget, and I'm going to show you how to practice them and apply them to a certain tune or progression. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you in a bit. I hope you enjoyed these tips. This is one of my favorite processes when trying to create solos and trying to create ideas in my solos. So thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok for all your sax ed, jazz ed tips, standards beats, and much more. Have a great weekend and stay saxy.